This is That Video Game Podcast, episode 539 for February 19th, 2018. Mr. Bean, the Assassin.
How serendipitous.
Welcome back to another episode of That Video Game Podcast. I'm your host, Boston, and joining me as always is Moonpier.
Bonjour.
Quick piece of business. We recorded the latest Game Club recap episode. This was episode 49 for the Mummy Demastered. Moonpier and I were joined by Musum. So if you want to hear the depths of human suffering over a video game.
Yep.
All three of us were there, and Musum especially was way down there at the bottom. But we did announce our next game, which is The West of Loathing, which is out for PC, OS X, and Linux. It's on sale right now on Steam for like $7 and change?
$8.79.
Yeah. So, we continue to have really good accidental luck for things that are on sale. So go check that out. It's really great, and hopefully West of Loathing will be really great. We may hear about that later. Wink. And I think that's all our business, so let's get started. Moonpier, what have you been playing this past week?
Well, the first game I want to talk about this week is The West of Loathing.
Oh, hey!
It's actually, I didn't put too much time into it. I just wanted to give it a quick nod at the start of the show. Mostly because this game makes me think about being 16 again, which is to say, not the birth of the internet, but when people were becoming more and more familiar with the internet. I can't remember the name of the site, but it was basically stick figure video games.
Yeah.
And there was like the point and click shooty ones where you had to shoot people, and they were gory and bloody and everything else.
It was like before Newgrounds really took off.
Yeah, and I can't remember the name of the site, but it was full of those type of games, and there was a whole lot of them. But this kind of reminds me of that, in the fact that it's stick figures. It made me think of me in 16 again. Flip side of it, this game is actually really quite funny.
That's what I've heard.
I'm assuming it's a heading to the west of America kind of tale, like from the East Coast to the West Coast during cowboy times. The writing in it so far has actually made me genuinely smile or laugh. It's done in the style of kind of like the old school RPGs, maybe mixed with like the new South Park games combat, where it's like a grid and you can shoot anywhere on the grid, or you can attack anywhere on the grid. So it's like the old school RPG styles with like your vitality and stuff like that, except instead of vitality, you've got moxie. It's just, there's so many little touches in the writing. It's so funny. I was mentioning it to you pre-show. I think it might be at least partially written by an English person, because they refer to Christmas as Crimbo, which is I actually think it's a very northern English thing as well. Like, I don't think it's a southern thing. I think it's a north of England specifically kind of term. But the game's actually really quite funny so far. Like, you're picking up items, you're exploring this 3D kind of space as stick figures. Animation is ridiculously beautiful in it. Like, it's, for a stick figure game, I can't tell you how crisp and clean this thing looks.
Right.
But then on top of that, like, just the animation is fantastic. It's like, I've never seen a stick figure walk this well from one side of the screen to the other.
Yeah.
It's so good. But yeah, I'm looking forward to actually playing a whole bunch more of West of Loathing. Like, just, I'm looking forward to getting into it and seeing what else the game has to offer, because right now I've just got I'm in the process of getting my horse. I need to go and explore the mine first. It's a really weird game, but so far it's tickling those correct buttons just to make me interested in getting further in.
And I forgot to mention at the top of the episode, HowLongToPlay.com estimates this is about a 7-hour game.
Yeah.
Which is pretty much our sweet spot for Game Club right now with how busy all three of us are.
Yeah. So in the process of, in the methodology of playing more games on my PC, I thought, I know what I'll do. I'll try and figure out a way to get my controller set up. So I was playing it wired and I thought, well, I've got a generic Bluetooth adapter which I use for my mouse.
Mm-hmm.
I wonder if my Xbox One controller can connect to it. No, is the answer for my.
Bummer.
For my Elite, at least, I can't seem to get it to connect. For my original Xbox One controllers, I can't get them to connect. However, I did get an Xbox One X with a brand new controller, which includes the Bluetooth as well as direct Wi-Fi features in it. So now I can play wirelessly on a controller on my PC.
Yes.
What's a good game to test that out on? Hungry Shark Evolution, a mobile phone game. Because, why not? Let's just play it. It's actually it's a game I've played before on my Windows phone. It's actually really fun. It's a very good switch your brain off and, swim around, eat the fishies, become bigger, spend coins to get bigger and increase your bite size, your speed size, and your actual size. So it becomes a case of you start at one shark and then you work your way up the sharks. Having beat it before, the great white shark is actually kind of fun because you can just chew on fishing boats and you destroy them.
That's kind of fun.
But that's endgame content. I'm in the process of working my way there again now.
Right, you can't raid yet.
No, I can't raid. I can't jump out. I can't pull a helicopter out of the sky yet.
Bummer. Every shark's dream.
Exactly. It's actually really cute. Like I love the game so much. I'm playing it again because I enjoyed it so much on the phone that it's like, it's relaxing. The music's kind of catchy, and even if I'm not in the mood for it, I can just put headphones in and not have to worry about it. So, Hungry Shark Evolution is actually really kind of fun. I did play a fair bit of Elite Dangerous this week. There was chitter-chatter in the Discord channel between myself and Nimp about the community goals, because they refresh every week. So every week you get a new community goal to take part in. Last week's were rough, like really, really rough. This week's is really simple. It's a combat bounty one, so you go and you shoot people who have been naughty, and then you hand in their value at the station. And the other one is a trading one. So it's really, really simple, nice, easy community goals. Nimp having just started, he's got himself a Cobra Mark III already. So give him absolute credit where it's due. Like he's jumped in both feet first. Like he's upgraded from a sidewinder within a week into a Cobra Mark III. He did post on Twitter, which made me laugh. He spent like 30 minutes working towards a mission. Didn't realize how hard planet-side landings can be, and then crashed into the planet, I believe, and destroyed his ship. That's a little bit rough. But the trick early on in that game, if you can do it, is to take part in the community goals, just because the community goals are real easy, real big sums of money. Like, right now, the bounty one, the way the community goals progress is it has tiers. Tier 1 to, I think, 8. And the more people get involved in it, the higher the amount you earn in it. And then the higher that number goes, it ups itself in tiers.
Okay.
Just so, like, Tier 1, if you took part in Tier 1, if you were in the top 100%, you get, 100,000 credits. If you're in the top 10%, you'll get, 1 million credits.
That's sort of like how Marvel Puzzle Quest does some of its event rewards.
Yes, very similar to that. Like, the more you do, the higher the rewards go, kind of thing. But then it's divvied up between all of the commanders in what they're actually going to get. But my favorite thing, I don't know if it's cross-platform with PlayStation, but PC donations to these things count on the Xbox side of things as well.
Oh, cool.
So I'm assuming that it must do the same thing for the PS4 because...
Yeah, I'd hope.
They have that server so in line with every single thing that happens on the game. I can only imagine that they include the PS4 stuff in it. But now we've jumped up to Tier 4 on the Combat Bounty one, so I just jumped into a wing with Nimp, flying around, shooting some people down. We ended up, me, Jess, and Nimp hanging around a nav beacon, hunting down these people who are wanted, and suddenly it's full of police. So, like, the local system authority sends a bunch of ships in because they want to maintain control of the area. They want to make sure nothing nefarious is going on. Mm-hmm. So, all of a sudden, we're surrounded by these police ships. Now, we've done nothing wrong, so there's nothing to worry about there. All of a sudden, they start... What I think they were doing was crashing into civilian ships, which causes the civilian ships to get bounties because they're assaulting a police officer. And then the police would immediately mark them as hostile and blow them out of the sky. So, we were sitting there, and as Jess so aptly put it, like, we were witnessing space police brutality.
Right.
It was crazy. Like, someone would jump in, they would be innocent, we'd scan them, be like, oh, you wanted? No, you're not. Great, so we can't claim a bounty on you. They'd hit a police officer. We'd start shooting at them because they became wanted, and it was like a 400 credit bounty. It's not even worth the ammo to shoot them.
Right.
And then it just happened over and over and over and over and over again. Like,
that's so weird.
10, 15 ships all of a sudden just getting crashed into or bumping into police officers and getting destroyed because they broke the law. So I was like, okay, we're just going to back away from here slowly. Yeah. And we're going to go somewhere else before we get crashed into and then we get blown out of the sky for no reason at all.
So weird.
Yeah. But no, Elite Dangerous continues to be so much fun. And I can't describe how much joy that game brings to my life. It's so good to just be able to jump in. I set up like the system they have in it. The problem with the community goals is if you go into open play, when you're playing in open play, if you're in the area that the community goal is going to be in, you are going to see a lot of humans. You're going to struggle with your bounty collection because everybody is going to be in that area. So you can play solo play, which is playing it by yourself. But they introduced, like, maybe 2 or 3 updates ago, they introduced private groups. So basically you can invite people into a group once you're all in the group, like a guild. It doesn't have a name, it's just a group. But once you're all in that, you can load up in private group mode, and then everybody else who comes in can just be in that instance with you and no other humans.
Oh, nice.
So it's a really nice, like, private lobby system to continue to play the game with people and not have to worry about all of the space jackasses out there who want to blow you out the sky.
Right.
Apparently one of these stations is currently on lockdown. The only reason a station goes in lockdown is when crimes are committed. And that station has a really low sell point for one of the things that the community goals this week needs. So we think there was some miscreants causing chaos. Probably
some Ocean's 13 stuff happening.
Yeah, probably stealing from all of the people coming out of that dock with what they need to hand in for this goal. But no, Elite Dangerous, it continues to be amazing. It continues to be fun. If you're interested in playing and you're on the Xbox One, I didn't mean for that to rhyme, I swear. Send me a message. I'm always happy to be the space Sherpa for everybody who's interested in playing. Nimp did his research. He taught himself how to play. Seems to be doing fantastically. Kitty Cat preferred to get life lessons from moment one from us. That's fine. Whichever way you want to do it. If you're interested, drop me a message. I'm always up for shooting people out the sky or assisting you with your cargo runs or even going space mining, which I forgot how beautiful that game can be because we went to a mining system to try and find more bounties. And the mining that we were in was rings around a planet, but it was ice rings, so it's literally ice asteroids floating in space with like 20, 30 ships all navigating in and out of these asteroids. It's just like, what? Man. This game's really, really, really good looking. And I don't know how the tiny group of Frontier somehow made this game as beautiful as it is and made it as accurate. Like, that's the universe. What's the word I'm looking for? The universe simulation that they have going on is so ridiculously detailed. I don't know how they did it. They are wizards when it comes to that kind of stuff.
Yeah, especially for, like you said, such a small team. It's just...
Yeah.
How did they do any of that?
Yeah, and more importantly, out of everything that people talk about with Kickstarter successes, why is nobody talking about Elite Dangerous? Because
were they kickstarted?
If memory serves, Elite Dangerous was a Kickstarter from at first, and
nice.
They are one of the big successes when it comes to that, as far as I'm concerned. Because they were one of the first games on Kickstarter, I believe. I think they even went up before whatever that guy's name is who did that adventure game that everybody doesn't like.
Tim Schafer.
Yes, that's the one. Tells you how little that is ingrained in my memory. Played a bit more Monster Hunter as well. I will not continue to drag this point too much along. I basically unlocked the second tier of monsters and now the third tier of monsters, and the new monsters that come along with the third tier of monsters. I refuse to talk about them because some of the reveals are incredible and terrifying at the same time.
Oh, right.
It's like the lightning unicorn. You see it and you're just like, I don't want to touch that thing. The thing is too good looking for me to actually hurt it, but you have to.
I don't want to fight that thing at all.
No, exactly. But moving along to my final game of this week, which in all honesty, I don't know how to talk about this game. I actually need to figure out who I got this game from, because it was a gift from somebody in the community, and I do not want to get to the point where I don't know who it is. There we go. That was a weird noise. Hello, everybody. Welcome to the cast. It was Servo. Servo from the community hit me up in Discord and sent me a message and gave me codes for a couple of games. Included in that list was the Norwood Suite.
The Norwood Suite.
Yes. Norwood. This game is probably the surrealist game I've ever played in my life.
Okay.
Basically, it's a first-person adventure game. It's like I said, first-person adventure game. You walk around. People in this hotel have things that they need. You can go and gather them and then give them to them. It's nothing special graphically. It's nothing. Part of it makes me feel like it might be it has some semblance to an asset flip.
Okay.
Like, there are people there are figures there. There is very little animation to the point where some of them are horrifying in the way they look at you.
Okay.
But it's basically about you spending the night at this hotel called the Norwood Suite, or I think it's the Norwood Hotel or something, which is famous in music in the game. I don't know if it is in real life or not, but it is in the game. Okay. And as I described it to my wife, it's Hotel California, the song made real.
Okay.
Because you've got guys who are obsessed with this energy drink. You've got this band who wants this sheet music, which apparently causes great injury when you play it. You've got to deliver this CD to this DJ who's downstairs doing his set list, and it was fun. Like, I did it in one sitting. I think it was 118 minutes it took, so it's basically just under 2 hours.
Mm-hmm.
Really fun?
/ weird?
It's bizarre. Like, it's genuinely so surreal. Like, the music in the game is incredible but super discordant at the same time.
Right.
Like, it's really memorable and really good music, but then at the same time it feels like it's designed that way to kind of make you feel slightly discomfort.
Mm-hmm.
So it becomes this really weird experience of going around this hotel, like going to the swimming pool, and the hands are, like, when you go to the disco, there's hands as a doorway that just keep doing weird hand motions. It's,
you need the jazz fingers.
Yeah, it's jazz fingers. The doorway is what it is, and the people you talk to there, it's just everything seems to be. It has a logic to it. It has a logic to the story. It has a B plot, basically, which is a company trying to buy this place so they can turn it into a server farm, like a mega corporation is what it looks like. Right. But then the guy who originally opened the place was like a musical savant, and he invited musicians to the place because it was the home of his music and his friends who were all musicians, and it's like that mecca for musicians to come to, a bit like the studio in London where the Beatles did their album, and then they did the Abbey Walk thing, Abbey Road Walk. It's that kind of vibe to it, but everything's just slightly out of place. It's like you took something and then you moved it slightly to the left with everything in the game. Like corridors twist and turn, there's secret passageways, there's a giant Datsun who's asleep on a couch, and he's about 4 times the size of you. Just, the game is good. It's good. It's interesting.
It's just really weird.
It's so surreal, and it's so hard. Like, literally, my wife's response, about 8 times while I was playing this, my wife was like, "What the F are you playing?"
Right. What am I looking at here?
That's really weird. But I mean, I would recommend it if you like that kind of game, if you like that kind of experience where you've got a couple of hours, you want to just explore a space and see what's going on. It's really good for that kind of stuff. But at the same time, it's also really, really weird. So maybe check out a trailer for it and then decide if you want to play it. But thank you, Servo, for making my Saturday night really, really weird. You're single-handedly responsible for that, just so you know. But yeah, that's all I've been playing. So, over to Assassin's Creed Origins. Boston.
Not yet. I actually started... I kickstarted a game... Boy, I think it was like 3.5 years ago now, called Crossing Souls. And they had sold it as sort of a love letter to 80s nostalgia.
Okay. So, Driver...
Sort of, yeah. But sort of also an RPG, and it seemed originally seemed focused a lot on like riding your bike around the neighborhood and kind of solving neighborhood-related mysteries.
Okay.
It just came out this past week, and I got my code for it and started it up for literally 5 or 10 minutes. Like that is about all the time I had this week to play it. So far seems really cool. Has a really great style. Doesn't seem too steeped in the 80s quite yet, although you and your friends are going to go look at a dead body in the woods, so it's
is
pretty
that 80s Stand By
already.
Me?
Yeah.
Okay. I haven't seen that, so...
So, it's pretty 80s already, but some of the reviews out have been kind of mixed about it, so I'm going in a little cautiously, and just sort of seeing what it's all about. But it is of note here, especially because it is yet another Kickstarter success. And we only hear typically about the failures.
Yeah.
And very infrequently about the successes. So, unless they're really big games, like the Tim Schafer stuff.
Was that the Banner Saga?
No, Banner Saga is a different group. They made Double Fine made Broken Age.
That's the one, Broken Age.
Yeah,
there we go.
Whew. That one was way back in there. But I'm hoping to put a little bit more time into Crossing Souls. I haven't seen how long it is yet, but I get the impression that it's not super long.
Yeah.
So fingers crossed. It seems like it's kind of a neat thing. But yes, my second game and the last game of this week is Assassin's Creed Origins. Let me open up. I did look at my my time here before we came up here to start recording. It is at 35 hours.
Wow, that's like
I have
2 weeks.
Yeah, and it's pretty interesting because thankfully there's a lot of side stuff to do in the game, so I can sort of play it a little bit in fits and spurts during the day.
Mm-hmm.
I cannot play it with audio because it's one of those games where the random henchmen just like to start screaming swear words all the time.
Yes, they do.
And my daughter is old enough that she is mimicking things we say. So,
you need to put the audio back on. Keep the audio on.
I play it on mute a lot.
Do you do the headphones into the controller trick?
Actually, what I usually do is I just have my TV turned all the way down, the volume. Because if I have the headphones plugged into the controller, then she really wants to chew on the headphones. So, there's really no winning. But the great part about Origins is I really, really like the soundtrack. But it's a really great game to play now that my Eagle, Senu, I think.
That's correct.
Has... I only have like 10 towers to climb, so he can sort of see through space and time at this point.
Oh yeah, you put him up once, you just like scan, done.
Yeah, it's pretty nice. So a lot of times, even if I'm taking over one of those, it's like the red icon with the spear. It's like an
big
outpost.
Fortresses kind of thing.
Yeah, the little fortresses. Usually, you can do one of those without needing any sound. Especially if you can purely stealth through it. So it's a pretty easy game to play without headphones in.
Especially at that point as well. Like, you're powerful enough that when things do go wrong, you're just like, okay, you're all dead now. Sorry about that.
Like, the sword that I typically use, we'll talk about the other sword I have in a second, but I have some legendary sickle sword that poisons on hit and bleeds on hit. So half the time I just like hit somebody twice and then I just move on to the next dude because that guy's just going to bleed out. So, I did... I forgot I had downloaded it months ago, and I stumbled upon the Final Fantasy 15 crossover stuff.
Oh, I hate this. I hate the Chocobo so much.
So I stumbled upon it, and like, you go in this this tomb, and it has this big mural on the wall that very clearly looks like a puzzle solution, and then at the bottom it has the XV in the same font as the Final Fantasy font.
Yep.
And Bayek goes, "This number seems important." And I was like, "Oh right, the Final Fantasy 15 stuff." So I solve the puzzle. It opens up that giant wall. The bad guy from Final Fantasy 15 comes out, and like just full modeled, just comes out and like walks out into Egypt.
Okay,
and then,
was that the bad guy from 15?
Yeah, the guy with like the red long hair.
Mm-hmm.
And then just leaves the like the iconic sword from the game and some sort of shield that I don't recognize. And then gives you the Chocobo mount. The sword is really good.
Yeah, it's the Ultima sword as well, isn't it?
I honestly don't know, because I think it's also the sword from the beginning, or it's like Noctis's dad's sword. I should play Final Fantasy 15 at some point.
I should play it at all.
Yeah. So the sword and shield are both pretty good. The Chocobo mount is 99% correct.
It's so dumb.
It's just that they only have 2 models in the game. One is camel and one is horse.
And what do they both have that a Chocobo doesn't have?
An extra pair of legs.
Exactly. Hence why the Chocobo is so dumb.
It looks so weird. Like, everything except for the legs looks spot on. They got the beak right, and like the feathers, and everything looks right. It's just so weird looking down and seeing like 2 sets of legs just running.
If it was just a Chocobo, I would have no problem. It's goofy, it's dumb, it's in there, that's great. Yep, but the fact that it's a Chocobo horse camel is a problem.
Right. Like, it's just... And the thing is, like, I can understand from a development standpoint, like, I couldn't imagine the nightmare it would be to put a single, optionally downloaded, temporary mount that is totally different from the other ones, but it's just a little weird.
Yeah. I can't use that thing because it just looks so dumb. Like, I think I actually lost my mind in Discord when I got that. It's like, number one, okay, why are they doing this? It doesn't need to be done. Final Fantasy doesn't need any more promotion, especially 15, because that was like the most hyped thing ever.
But the other cool part is they did the opposite. There's Assassin's Creed stuff in Final Fantasy 15.
Oh, okay, so that's why they did it, to try and...
Yeah, and then there's the Cactar is on Lila's desk in modern day.
I didn't even notice that.
I just noticed that the other night. Like, I looked over and it's the Cactar doing the
Cactar stand.
Yeah. Sabotender.
I've got no problem with things being really, really dumb, but if you're going to be that dumb, you need to lean all the way into it.
Yeah.
Or lean all the way away from it. Yep. So, the fact that they did the middle ground is what puts me off here.
Yeah. So I just switched back to my on fire skeleton horse, and that's sick.
I don't know where you got that thing from.
From the
the little kid, you mentioned.
Yeah. I actually got it from, every once in a while I'll have enough money, and like, one of the weird parts about the game is at this point, you can upgrade your weapons, but like, even upgrading it from like, I'm level 32 right now.
Mm-hmm.
Even upgrading like a bow that I use from 30 to 31 still costs 5,000 gold. Or if I'm doing it from like 14 to 30, that's also 5,000 gold.
Yep.
So it's sort of like, if you have a whole bunch of gold on hand and your stuff is relatively upgraded, instead I'll buy one of his quote-unquote loot boxes.
Yep.
Because it'll probably have something cool in it. Like, I got a really cool costume from one of them. I got that flaming, skeleton horse.
That horse looks really cool.
It's super fast. Like, I didn't realize that the rarer the mount, the faster
it goes. Yeah.
Which also, I just read a tooltip today that the faster your mount moves, the more damage you do while mounted.
That I did not know.
Yeah. This is one game where tooltips are actually cool, because not only is it teaching me about cool ancient Egyptian stuff, it's also teaching me cool stuff about, hey, hold R1 when you're diving and you will silently dive underwater. It's like, oh, what? That's actually really useful. Thank you.
Yes.
So that's the non-spoiler stuff. We're going to move into mild spoiler stuff for the second tier of enemies. So if you're somehow not there, maybe skip forward a little bit.
We will do our best to not be 100% spoilery, though.
Yeah, I'd rather do a spoiler cast of this later than spoil stuff here. I finished the second tier of enemies. I think the obvious standout that a lot of people talked about was the crocodile.
Sobek, yes.
Yeah, that's not my favorite one. I thought that one was fine, but I've had this problem in Assassin's Creed Origins, and it's not my problem, it's not the game's problem, it's just basically RNG at this point, that the majority of those targets that I have killed have sort of been by accident.
Oh, wow.
And a lot of times, and what I mean by that is, a lot of times, like the very first guy you go to kill, I was like hopping around in his villa.
Are we talking about the first guy in the game period?
Yeah, the very first guy in the game.
Like the weird temple villa in...
Yeah. In Siwa, I think it was in.
Yes. I was thinking Bayakov, what's the place?
Bayakov, that guy. Yes. The very first guy, when I hopped into that villa, I was like hopping between rooftops, and I accidentally jumped off of a rooftop and landed like on some sort of terrace.
Mm-hmm.
And I hear from behind me someone go, "Hey, what's that guy?" And I turn around, it's just the dude I need to kill. And like, no one else was near him. So I just sort of gave him the Stabby Jones, confirmed the kill, and then just left. And that has been probably 75% of my kills. Like, for the crocodile, when I went to go kill her, I had done the whole scanning of the area, completely silently took out everybody else, and I was closing in on her location because she was sort of wandering around this giant area she was in. I accidentally climb up on... One of my bad habits in this game is I'm breaking it now, but I'm still holding R2 all the time to run.
Yep, I did the exact same thing.
Which, the good and bad thing about Origins is it doesn't make you faster, because thankfully you don't have to hold that for the whole game anymore. But I'm still doing it because that's like my Assassin's Creed muscle memory.
Yep, but then the problem with that is you run up everything.
Yeah, and I ran up this like half wall, and she goes, "Oh, look who's that!" And then her and her bodyguard just take off running, just start sprinting. And I was just like,
wow.
Come on, guys. So part of the big reveal at the end of this mission is who her bodyguard is. And the two bows I'm using are I'm using the non-garbage bows, and there's only 2 of them.
The Predator and the Hunter.
Exactly. they're like zoom in, sneak one is the Predator one, right? Where you guide the arrow.
Yep.
And then the Hunter is just like the regular, I'm going to pull back and let go.
Fire one arrow.
Yeah, instead of like, I pulled back and I shot 7 because that's useful for...
It's a shotgun bow, dude. Come on.
It's bad.
It's a shotgun bow, it's the minigun bow, it's the rifle bow, and it's the sniper rifle bow.
Right. So I use the sniper rifle bow to snipe because I didn't think that was the one I had equipped. I sniped the bodyguard, and from 75 yards away, Bayek goes, "I'm very sorry, friend. I didn't mean it to turn out like this." And I was like, "Who did I just kill? Who did I just kill?" And then, like, chasing the crocodile, I passed by this person's body, and I was like, "Oh, well, that would have been a really great reveal had I not sniped the bodyguard from a mile and a half away." Yeah. So then I chased the crocodile into, like, a river, and then just give her the Stabby Jones and sort of move on. The majority of my kills have all been like that.
Oh, wow.
Where it's like, I'm super sneaking through this place. Oh, I just turned a corner. Oh, here's the bad guy that I had forgotten I had... well, let's kill him and then sort of move on.
So, basically, it sounds like you are, like, Mr. Bean the assassin.
100%. Yeah.
Where it's just like, oh, I'm going to trip over, fall over, kick this bucket in the air. It's going to hit a plank that's got a log on it that's going to roll all the way down and land on your target. And you're just like, I'm the best. And then walk away.
See you guys later. Yeah, it's so crazy. And the 2 that I really liked in this set, the crocodile I thought was fine. The arena was good. I'm looking forward to going back in there and playing the arena's fights sort of beyond the fact.
Yeah. Really quick on the crocodile, the assassination of the crocodile I didn't so much care for. It was the story up until that point. Like, when you discover who the crocodile is, it's the they went there moment for that mission that takes it all the way to that place in the story that I don't want to say anything because it is kind of a big moment. They went there with it. So that surprised me.
I think that's the one thing that I really like that Origins is doing really well that reminds me of the first Assassin's Creed game. Like, the thing that the first Assassin's Creed game is so famous for is you'd find out who your target is, and then you do all those missions where it's like, I'm going to sit and eavesdrop on a bench, and I'm going to follow these guys. Thankfully, in Origins, all that stuff is finally gone. Like, they tail somebody and don't go too far away from them.
Yep.
And then, in the first Assassin's Creed, you'd find out who it is, you find out where they are, what their habits are, and all that stuff, and then you'd eventually have all the info to go kill them. I like that Origins has something very similar where, you get a name where it's like, the Crocodile, and then you have someone in town that knows something, and then throughout 5 or 6 missions, you eventually find out, you eventually have to go help someone. I'll tell you if you help me. Yeah. Because it's a video game.
It's that, or it's like, this person has gone missing, we don't know where to find them. Right. Or you've got the quid pro quo kind of crowd who are just like, I'll help you, you help me, that kind of thing.
Help me clear out bandits and I'll help you do. But throughout there, you find out like what their real name is, what their job is, where they are.
The effect they're having on the community, like why they are so bad.
In the case of some of these people, it's like, well, here they are, here's who they are, here's where they are during the day, and here's where they are during the night. So you can use the, Dawn and Dusk skill, I think it is. On PS4, it's just hold the touchpad, and it changes the time of day. You can use that to your advantage, and I think that's when Assassin's Creed is really great, is when you're this investigator and you're trying to figure all this stuff. And I think,
I'm telling you, man, my friend, like I said it when I was playing the game, like CSI Magi is how that game plays
for sure. And
it's so good.
There's a couple levels that are going on at the same time, which I think really benefits. It's this whole idea of you're a Magi, so you're trying to clean up Egypt,
Yeah, you're basically a police officer or a police detective.
Right. And you sort of have that, you're trying to find out who killed your kid, and you're trying to keep Cleopatra happy at the same time. So you have these three things sort of tugging at you, and
at the same time as well, you've also got the Greek and the Roman incursion into Egypt.
Right.
As the cultures clash from all of the different angles. That's why he is considered the last Magi, is because the Magi have been thrown out by the new regime and by the Greek influence coming in and the Roman influence coming in all at the same time. It's like, I didn't realize, like, I didn't know a thing about Egypt's history until I started playing this game. I knew the big stuff. Guess what? The pyramids. I knew that.
Right.
But I didn't know any of the surrounding stuff, like the cultural conflicts that were happening. And seeing them explode in this, like, this is probably the best time to set a game in Egypt.
That's super interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Well, and the last factor too is your relationship with your wife, which I'm really impressed with. The game is balancing the loss of your son, the reunion with your wife, but also Bayek trying to balance the strong love for his wife, but also the two of them having different marching orders from Cleopatra that in a lot of games you'd sort of expect, where it's like, well, now it's like a buddy cop thing, like they're always together and they're bringing down the cops. It's like, no, you need to go do this thing, I'm going to come over here and do this thing, but we're going to be in totally separate parts of the world. And to see that put a strain on their relationship is really interesting, because it's something that games don't tackle a lot, and it feels very genuine.
Yeah, like, my favorite thing, like, I honestly think this might be my favorite relationship in video games ever, is their two relationships, or the relationship between those two. Because, I mean, like you said, you've got, like, they both have clearly a very strong love for each other. That relationship is being put under so much pressure by the death of the son, but they still love each other, but they're dealing with it in their own particular ways. Bayek has his thirst for revenge, but also the desire to make sure Egypt as a whole is doing well. And his wife has got the exact same thing going on, but she's not focused on the common people like Bayek is. She's focused on the bigger picture. She is focused on the political picture, whereas he's focused on at the foot level kind of picture.
Right, the crimes at home.
Yeah, so they're both taking their own separate routes to do the exact same end goal. And they come together, they clash heads about it, they have arguments and discussions about it, but at the same time you can still feel how much they care for each other. But you can still feel the strain as well from A, being away from each other, and A, their son dying.
Yeah. And I think a huge part of that is both Bayek and Aya's voice actors are really good.
Oh, yeah.
And I feel like that has sort of gotten overlooked a little bit, and I think that's sort of a bummer.
I think, I'm not sure, I can't even remember now, but I think Bayek might have won the best new character in Giant Bomb's Game of the Year discussions.
Oh,
definitely
okay,
top 3. And I think that deserves it from the game to the voice acting. He is incredible.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know if you've done the side mission with a bunch of kids yet. Like, there's a couple of side missions with kids, and there's a couple of them that are really, really good. Like, he takes one of these young boys who's, like, lost in a cave and kind of talks to him, like, saying, oh, this is what I would say to my son. I'm not going to say it to you, but I'm saying this is what I would say. So he's actually telling him what he'd say to his son, but without actually being his father.
Right.
Like, there's really interesting, like, relationships he has with everybody.
Yeah. We spent a lot of time talking about the crocodile, but those weren't my favorite ones. My two favorite ones are, so more spoilers here a little bit. The scarab, was the one where that you meet up with a guy who's digging a town out of the desert.
Yep, I love that one as well. That's really great.
I really like that one because I like, and here's super spoiler territory if people are listening and haven't played it. I like Bayek having to deal with the target having a family.
Yeah.
Because before it's just like a priest who's gone wrong and no one will miss him. How could they?
And an old lady who's clearly a villain. Whereas in this case, it's a guy who has a goal, he has a purpose. He seems like a very good guy. Like, in his own world.
He's doing good.
Exactly. In his own world, he is a hero. That's the best villains are the villains who are justified from their point of view.
Right. The other one I really liked was the lizard. That was the one where someone feeds you that hallucinogenic drink.
Yep.
And you have that underworld glowing snake fight, which I thought was super cool.
I kind of really love that so much.
I feel like that's the one. I feel like everyone keeps talking about the crocodile stuff, but when I'm going to remember that tier, I'm going to remember the scarab for the Fallout. I'm going to remember the lizard for just having this, like, fever dream fight with a giant snake in the underworld. Like, that's super cool.
Yeah. I do love, by the way, how the titles bestowed upon them actually correspond to their stories. Like, the scarab is the guy who is digging his way out of sand to try and make a better life. The lizard is the one who poisons you, and you fight the giant snake. But more importantly, it's like the poison aspect of it. And the crocodile is the no mercy, no relentless, constant forward march. I will do what it takes to get the job done.
Yeah, and I like how... So, this game probably has my favorite, talking to people when they're dead or dying scenes. Yeah. I don't know what those are really called in this game. I feel like they should have a term. But
they should. I don't think they have, but they should. We'll call it the feather moment or whatever you want to call it.
Yeah, exactly. So I think I like... In the feather moments in this game, I like a lot because the art... Like, the cutscene direction is so crazy. Like, when... I think it was the hyena, maybe. Like, you're very tiny in this black pool, and the hyena is huge in front of you. But whenever the camera changes, you're really big standing over it because you're sort of winning the argument at that point. And the cool stuff, like, when you've taken down the crocodile... Like, people are trying to claw you under the black water. Like, there's... I feel like that the feather moment is so iconic for the franchise because it always... When you first run into it in the first game, you're just sort of like, wait, am I dead? Wait, are we both dead? Like, I just killed him. And you sort of understand this going forward. But I feel like for the first time in Origins, it isn't you outside of the Animus in this like sterile hospital environment. It really is.
Here's like, the underworld. Go really, have fun.
Yeah, like it genuinely the place that takes place in has an identity for the first time, and I think that makes it way better.
Oh yeah, say what you want about it being the color swap version, basically, where it's the white for the black, but it, like you said, it's the perspective shifts, the changes, the things they do to the people. Like,
things get weird.
The one for Sobek, like the crocodile one, I love that one because that voice actor for Bayek, he gives a hell of a performance when he's just shouting the name of spoiler.
Right, he goes all out about it.
That to me was incredible, and then you see Sobek's literal indifference to the whole thing.
Right,
like that. Those feather moments, I don't think they've ever been done as well as they have in this period.
Yeah. Talking about the Animus, I like how the modern day stuff is getting trickier. I like that I like Lila as a character because you as the player can easily see that Lila's downfall is going to be her thirst for knowledge.
Yeah.
Like,
and
that's her,
also kind of her thirst for I will prove you wrong.
Right. And it's manifested at the beginning of the game by I made an animus. And
yep.
I can dive into anybody's memories, not just my relatives. But is that a good idea? It's like, is the real question.
Yeah, because you get like when she gets kicked out of it, it's like, look, your body is producing these side effects.
Yep.
You need to fix these before you go back in and give yourself some time. And you have the choice to just be like, num 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 num, pills, num num num.
Yeah, just hop back in. Well, and the bleeding effect is getting a little bit nasty too, where it's almost the opposite of the bleeding effect that I won't spoil for anybody, but it's nice to see. It's nice to see Ubisoft play with the modern day stuff. Like I said before, if you want to engage into it. There's a couple of scenes, so far I've run into 2, where you have to go do something in the world. It takes maybe 10 or 15 minutes at most. Enough for people to be like, alright, fine, I want to go back to Egypt. But enough for me to get back into the laptop, read a bunch of emails, and then kind of get back into, digging through the trash can. Last thing that I had was the tomb, the machines. Shall we call them? The people who came before machines. I just listened to / watched my 4th one. It's so weird because they exist entirely for people like you and I, Moon, that one have played almost all, maybe you skipped 1 or 2 of them here.
Yep.
You love the Space Moon people.
Yep.
And you care about the modern day stuff. Yep.
Which is taking your audience down from huge to a subset to a subset to a subset to there we are, right in that narrow little sliver.
That Venn diagram is super tiny, but I think they're really well done. I think they're really, really interesting. I think the way that they flesh out the modern day stuff in sort of a roundabout fashion. I haven't completed all of them, and I haven't done the Sphinx yet. Is really interesting. I kind of wish they were a little bit shorter, and the voice acting
can drag a little bit.
I wish the voice acting was a little bit more interesting. I get why it isn't. But if they could punch it up a little bit, it would be a little bit. The problem is I'm really interested in it, but the almost monotone voice acting pulls me out of it a little bit, and I wish they would have done it a little bit differently. But I'm glad it's there, and I'm glad that they're diving into it. I'm glad they're diving into the side effects on the modern day world after Assassin's Creed 3.
Okay.
For anyone that hasn't played Assassin's Creed 3, which is probably most of you, and maybe haven't played anything since that, the sun was going to blow up.
Yep.
And Desmond stopped it.
Yeah, it was I think it was a life-ending solar flare, like an ELE level solar flare that would basically wipe out the planet.
Yeah, and Assassin's Creed maybe didn't deal with it super well. It sort of happened.
Yeah, it's because the way that ends is at the end of 3, you're using first, whatever they're called, the first people technology to stop that solar flare.
Right.
And at the same time, you're also learning that someone on your team is a traitor. And at the same time, you're also learning that to use that technology to save the planet would also allow the remnants of the first people out into the world, which is then where you get, I think it's not Rogue, it's in Syndicate, when you get the reference to the lady in Syndicate, and how she's in the machines and rebuilding herself. She was released from the end of 3 when you activated that machine to save the planet. You also released her into the wilds to be...
And that's why the side effects happened in Black Flag during the modern day stuff with the really weird and very odd ending in the modern day to that game. But it feels like in Origins, like Syndicate barely had any modern day stuff, and Unity barely had any, right?
Unity had 0 that I can remember. Syndicate had the FMV cutscenes where you see smarmy jerkface, not Chuck from BMF Cast, but
the British laptop guy.
Yep. The guy who wrote Yes Man. I can't remember his name.
Right.
Yeah. That guy.
And I think as people started complaining more about the modern day stuff, especially after Black Flag, which I loved, I feel like they pulled back on the amount of stuff that you were doing in the modern day as a character, and they moved that all to the codex.
Yep.
Which is that it's a plus and minus that it's that it's completely missing from Origins, because I feel for the people that had to write that stuff. They were writing thousands and thousands of words that nobody was reading.
Yep.
As like 2 characters, as like an encyclopedia, and then that British guy that was also adding like snarky stuff at the bottom.
Rich? No, not Rich.
That's pretty close to it.
I know. Whatever.
Assassin's Creed British.
I was about to say, you better type in Assassin's Creed British guy.
Sean Hastings.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah. I sort of missed that stuff, but I like that instead they shifted that to being in the world, where you're finding all these little like scrolls and hieroglyphics and stuff that explain what's happening in the area you're in the world. So Assassin's Creed Origins is really... So I think the thing that I want to say here is that Assassin's Creed Origins is really good for 3 reasons. Or more, who knows. I'm just pulling 3 out of my hat.
You're not wearing a hat.
I know. I just out of this mop of hair I have. Number 1 is it's a very good Assassin's Creed game. It is on the level of 2 in Brotherhood and Black Flag. Like for me, those 4 games, Origins included, are the Assassin's Creed games you want to play. Like, going back to playing 1 is probably pretty impossible at this point, because it's just so old, and it was broken on release, and I think it's virtually unplayable at this point. But I feel like the 2 trilogy is probably still pretty solid.
Yeah, I think the 2 trilogy is pretty good. I think to slightly amend the phrasing here, I think this is the best evolution of the Assassin's Creed series. Yeah. Like, they've done the experiments, they've done Black Flag, and they've done all the other stuff. I think this is the way to take it back to the land, to take it back to major areas, and evolve it with the times, because by the time 2-3 came out, the formula was dated, and then you had 3 proper come out, and it was dated then. I think that's why everybody loved Black Flag so much, because it was an evolution in a different direction.
And it was so good. Well,
still
and
not played it.
I think the thing that Black Flag really did that Assassin's Creed 3 tried to do and Origins does really well is it removes the verticality, which is something that I usually don't want games to do. I want games to be much more vertical, because most of the games we play are just, you're on this plane, like think of Gears of War. You're just shooting people on the same plane as you are. But Assassin's Creed oddly becomes better when it stops being about jumping from rooftop to rooftop.
Because you cut out all of that wasted time of climbing up stuff, which they fixed in Syndicate with the grapnel. Like they fixed it with that, but at the same time you're still running across a rooftop. It's not about the world, it's about what rooftop you're running across.
Yeah. And now you're running across lakes and deserts, and you're climbing mountains, and it's way more interesting. And I think they managed to figure out how to make the modern day stuff really great because not only is it a puzzle in a puzzle, it's totally optional. If you don't want to listen to it, you can activate the machine and you can use the teleporter and get the hell out of there. Doesn't matter. Like, the transcript goes to your laptop anyway. And I think the best thing they could have done is, like I said last week, they just stole a bunch of stuff from Witcher 3. Like, the thing that kept me playing Witcher 3 and the thing that it reminded me of when I was playing today, the thing that kept people so engaged in Skyrim are those question marks. Where, like, I keep catching myself where I'm like, oh, you know, like, I'm doing laundry at the end of the night, and it's like 10 o'clock, and it's like, all right, I have to go to bed, I'm tired. There's one more question mark, like 200 meters away. I'm just going to do that one more. And it's like, ooh, but that one was a climbing point, and that one showed me a golden question mark, and those are usually really good. So I got to go do that one. And then, like, an hour later, I'm just like, wait, what was I doing? Oh my God, I have to go to bed. Like, and I think that's the strength for me.
Oh, yeah. One thing they've done as well is they have done a fantastic job with updates on that game, because something you wouldn't know when that game came out, it's really hard to see some of those question marks.
Oh, really?
Really, really difficult to see which ones were golden, especially on the map. It was really difficult to get it narrowed down to which one you were looking at, or whether or not there was even one there.
Oh, like, okay.
I think one of the first or second update they did would mess with the camera controls, and they severely changed like the clarity of those logos and those things on the map.
It has like a little background on it now.
It didn't have that at first.
Oh,
it was really, really transparent and hard to see. So they've done a fantastic job with, like, even during the like 60 hours I played that game, like, the quality of life while you were playing it just got better.
Yeah, I mean, I always have to give Ubisoft credit, because as much people want to paint them as some sort of villain, they genuinely do stick around with their games for a long time, and they've gotten way better about it. And I think, you know, I think one of the filters that I like, I was a little bummed about some not being able to configure your own filters on the map originally, but the filter I really like is the one that says uncompleted objectives, and just only shows you question marks and stuff you haven't completed. And I'm already tucking in to go for the platinum anyway, because it's not going to be it's not impossible, but it will be challenging.
Have you sold any trinkets yet at shops?
I sold about 5, but I have...
Don't sell anymore.
I just counted them. I have 85 right now. So I'm right there. I'm going to gather 120 and then sell them.
I think I gathered like 200 just to be safe.
Yeah, and so part of the reason that I like what developers have been doing lately have been, especially on PS4, you know, you have like these giant blocks of hidden trophies at the beginning. Like, what I do is I always go through and I get the prologue one first, and I see where that shows up, and it's like, all right, the next 12 of them, those are all storyline ones. I'm going to skip those. I'm going to look at the ones at the bottom. I'm going to look at all the hidden ones too. So I start saying, like, okay, I need to sell 100 trinkets at a time. Okay, cool. I need to run away from 3 hippo fights. All right, I can do that over time. You know, I need to hit somebody at 60 yards with a controllable arrow.
A fire arrow, arrow,
cool.
Yeah.
I can do that. Like,
hit the red jaws with fire arrows.
Been doing that like crazy. Like, and that's part of what I like about dashboards now letting you see hidden trophies is I don't have to go to a website to find out, like, I need to sell 100. Like, one of the ones they have hidden is kill 8 ship captains.
Yep.
I'm just going to do that as I complete stuff in the game. I don't know why you have
do.
To
I think the reason that one is marked as a secret is because I think it gives you a black flag reference as the descriptor for the achievement.
Oh, you know, I never checked what the title was. Okay.
I'm pretty sure that's why they did it.
Okay.
So it would be a cute little surprise when you got it.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think.
And there's like some weird ones that I'm struggling to get, which is like, see the hallucination in the desert of the bugs raining down.
Yep.
That's just a time-based one. Or kill 3 enemies at once. I just have to go to a low-level place and kill some hyenas at once. You know, there's some, but the thing I've always liked about the Assassin's Creed games is none of them are ever really that grindy. The trinkets one set aside if you make some mistakes.
Excuse me, you better take that back right now. None of them are really that grindy. Assassin's Creed Unity, get every single thing on the map.
Well, I mean, I didn't play Unity because it was bad.
And I did it.
Wow.
It took me 2 years, but I did it.
I've platinumed the majority of them going back to 2. So I sort of feel like, and the sort of crazy thing about Uplay now is they show you how much stuff you've completed in each one, and the majority of them are platinumed, if not a little bit better. So I'm like, well, and the other thing too is it's a lot like Witcher and a lot like Skyrim, where a lot of this stuff is fun, and they finally figured out how to get the variety up. So I want to do all this stuff. It's not like Syndicate, where it's like, all right, each area is going to have 2 of these factories where you got to free the kids, and 1 of these ones with the hallways, and 3 of these. You know, just you felt like you were checking off the checklist. Like, one of my favorite things in this game so far is the Phylakes. The
Phylactetes, or whatever they're called.
Yeah, the red horned guys that are just like
the Magi replacement.
Yeah, I've killed 4 or 5 of them at this point, and each one of them feels like a really great battle. And just the amount of stuff they have in this game is great. And I could keep talking for a really long time about Assassin's Creed Origins, but
really quick before we sign off on ACO. The little touches in that game are what made a big difference for me. Like, when you pull out your torch, if you drop your torch on the ground and you're in an area that's got dry grass, it will set fire to it and it will expand. Mm-hmm. My favourite thing, before I got a bow and arrow that was automatically on fire, you can actually drop your torch on the ground and then aim your bow at the torch and then set the tip of it on fire without having a fireball.
Nice. I was just using the fire sources that were around. Like, I just aim my bow at like a torch on the wall and then use that.
Yep. And I did not know that for the longest time, and then I discovered you could do it. I was like, this is so cool.
Well, I kept getting lost in tombs until I realized you can stand next to one of those braziers and just he will light it by himself, and just like, oh, well, now I know where I've been. Okay, cool.
Yep. Like, little things like that, they teach you it once, and then they don't mention it again, and you'll usually miss it because you're not paying attention. You're like, look at this cool tomb.
Yeah.
And then you realize it later, and you're like, okay, game changer. Yeah. Let's make this thing bright.
Yeah, Assassin's Creed Origins is just really great. And it's not only a really great Assassin's Creed game, which means a lot or means nothing to people, but it's genuinely a really great game.
Yep.
And I feel like a lot of times with Assassin's Creed games, we have to lay down a lot of caveats, where it's like, it's a really great game, but it's an open world thing, and but. There's not a lot of that this time.
Nope.
It's just really good.
Yeah. And the main thing I've seen laid against the game is the loot boxes. But guess what? You don't have to spend real money. You can still get the loot boxes. Mm-hmm. And then if you're interested in a cosmetic item, you can literally just buy that cosmetic item in the store.
Yeah, I was worried about the loot boxes because I didn't remember about them until I had started playing. But the kid that has the quote-unquote loot boxes only takes in-game money.
Mm-hmm.
And you can spend real-world money on that, but I don't know why any human would do that.
Yep. Have you spoken to the little kid since you had your giant fight with the snake?
Yes.
Because the conversation he has about that is fantastic.
Yeah, that I visit that kid every day for his mission, because it usually gives you really good stuff.
Yep.
Yeah. Go play Assassin's Creed Origins. It's really great, and that's all I've been playing this past week. So let's take a break. Let's talk releases for the week of February 19th, 2018. Metal Gear Survive comes out on PC, PS4, and Xbox One. I wish it the best. I don't want to be pessimistic, but like Monster Hunter World has caught the world by storm.
Yep. Everybody seems to be talking about MH. Nobody seems to be talking about this.
No, it has so much stacked up against it. Like, no Kojima, Monster Hunter World is really great, and everybody's playing it, and there's been no marketing push for this other than E3, where it's, hey, Metal Gear with zombies, which...
And the beta.
And the beta, which was good, but didn't do... I'd like to see it succeed, but also Konami sort of sucks, so...
You just named the reason why I'm indifferent either way. If it does good, great. If it doesn't, great too, because Konami's behind it, and they have proven that they don't care about us, so I don't care about them.
Yeah. Alright, let's move on to news stories, because that's really the only release this week. NightDive Studios puts System Shock on hiatus. They're working on a System Shock remake, not a remaster. They raised $1.35 million on Kickstarter back in 2018. And it sounds like things went wrong.
Is this a the money's gone kind of moment?
I can't really tell, because I don't. They're not really saying it honest. They're not really saying it like out front, like we're out of money. But what's really interesting is they started with Unity and they eventually moved on Unreal. And they cite that that's not really the problem, but basically when they started working on a System Shock remake, they started thinking about all these quality of life improvements, which obviously you want to do on a remake because System Shock is, 20-something years old now. You want to freshen it up a little bit.
Yeah.
Alternately, you could just go play TVGP's 2017 Game of the Year, Prey. It's basically a System Shock remake. But they started taking it too far. They started doing too much. And eventually they figured out they were just making a new game and not a System Shock remake. Which I have to give them a lot of credit because they actually came out and were talking about it instead of saying like, yeah, development's going slow but very good. They're like, okay, we sort of screwed up because we started making a different game than the one we were making.
Yeah.
So
retitle it System Shock 1.2.
Sure. System Shock 2.5 something.
Yeah.
Do Kingdom Hearts, System Shock Birth by Demons 1.3 over 5.
It says the guy who plays the really ridiculously named visual novels 9 Days, 9 Doors, 9 Nights.
Hey man, I don't know what you're
Suicide
talking about
Extreme Hyperactive Girls.
Stein's semicolon Gate or Danganronpa V3 Killing Harmony. I don't know what you're talking about.
Exactly.
So they've caught a lot of flack. I think we were talking about Crossing Souls earlier where you really only hear about the negatives. Part of Kickstarter, though, is that there's the expectation of updates when things are going well or going poorly. And I have to give them a lot of credit for saying, like, hey, we scope creeped ourselves and things went poorly and we're pulling way, way, way back and meeting the original goal again.
Yeah. We're a bunch of creative people. It just turns out we got too creative.
Yeah. So, I mean, kudos to them, but...
Yeah.
Had to take a drink there. My voice is going out. Next news story, THQ Nordic, a.k.a. THQ. Acquires Deep Silver, meaning that THQ has Saints Row again.
Wait. Who would Deep Silver own? But was Deep Silver Koch Media?
Yeah, Koch Media. Yeah, so THQ filed for bankruptcy, and that auctions off all of its
Let's go down this rabbit hole again, shall we?
Koch Media...
They bought Deep Silver, they bought Saints Row.
Yeah, they bought Deep Silver, which brought them Saints Row, and Koch Media later purchased Homefront from
Crytek, who bought that from THQ.
Right. And then
Nordic Games bought the THQ name,
right,
along with a whole bunch of other stuff. I think Nordic might have Red Faction. I'm not sure.
Darksiders, Red Factions, and the MX series.
Okay, so then Nordic bought that, then they renamed themselves THQ Nordic because it's a more globally recognized name.
Right.
Then they have bought Deep Silver from Koch Media.
Right.
So now they own Saints Row again.
So now THQ re-owns all THQ games, I think.
Except for the WWE games, but that went to 2K, and that's a whole different... All the licensed stuff went to other people. That's a whole mess.
So...
When's the Nordic coming off?
I think that's the only question is, like, if you look, they're probably working on a new Saints Row thing now that Agents of Mayhem flopped, to put it kindly. Darksiders 3 is supposed to come out this year, which I am so uncontrollably excited about.
Yeah, I'm the same. I really shouldn't be. We shouldn't be as a whole. Shouldn't be excited until we play it, but... From what I understand, it's the same people, and isn't Joe Mad back in it again, so...
I think so, yeah. At least, like, consulting or something. Probably drew, like, the main character. It's like Nomura over at Square Enix, where it's like, I drew the main character. Go make a game.
Oh, the guy who does Goku, who draws, like, the lead character for, like, every anime ever. It's like,
Akira Toriyama. Yeah.
Yeah.
He's like, he also did Chrono Trigger, where it's like, I make these characters. Go make something.
That's why there's someone who looks exactly like Gohan in Bleach.
Yes. Yeah. And someone will correct me, also Dr. Slump. I haven't forgotten about Dr. Slump.
I don't know what that is.
His hit before Dragon Ball. Before, like, the whole Dragon Ball thing started. Last news story... Talk about Konami a little bit more here. Konami figured out why the nuclear disarmament event happened on PC.
Okay, because it was programmed poorly.
Boy, you got it in one. The game, I won't go into what buffer overflows mean, but basically, people on PC made so many nukes.
It reset the counter to 0. It's the Gandhi from Civilization thing all over again.
Uh-huh. It went over its limit, which reset itself back to 0.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
Thank you for this amazing thing.
Thank you, Konami. Thank you, nuclear creators. Thank you, everybody. They said, we've implemented a series of countermeasures during today's server maintenance to resolve this issue and prevent it happening in the future. End quote.
Too bad the cutscene already exists out there on the internet.
Well, also, like, you could just open up the video file on the Steam version. Okay. Just watch
that works too.
Yeah, so, like, thank you, Konami, and I look forward to Konami's statement in about another 7 to 9 months when this happens again.
I look forward to their statement in about 2 weeks as to why Metal Gear Survive is so broken.
We're shutting down the servers for about 2 weeks to really beefing them up.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we can just write that press release now, probably.
Yeah.
All right, let's move on to, first before we get to questions, let's talk about our Patreon plug this month. Jason G. returns. He wants to plug his wife's book. Lisa M. Green wrote a book called The First. He plugged this about a year ago, maybe, or so. If you're at the $10 Patreon level, patreon.com/E1M1, you can get your own plug in this episode. You can listen to her book, The First, on audible.com. I just looked on Amazon. The ebook is on sale for $3. I read it last time they plugged it. It was pretty good. It is a fantasy novel that definitely went places that I didn't expect, and it is a hell of a ride, and it is something I would really recommend picking up. So, Lisa M. Green wrote a book called The First. You can buy it on Amazon, Audible, and book shelves near you where books are sold. Book places.
I shall be looking forward to this.
Yeah. Let's move on to questions. T-Bomb Rocks asks in Discord, what TV series do you feel has been the biggest influence in video games? For me, I would say either The X-Files or 24.
My biggest issue here is I haven't seen neither of those two.
Yeah,
I think
watch a lot of X-Files.
The only thing I've ever seen from the X-Files was, weirdly enough, I'm pretty sure it was the episode that got banned from TV because it was shown in England once.
Yeah.
And that was just the one time I happened to watch the X-Files and then never saw it again and always wondered what that show was.
show was actually pretty good. That episode aside, because it was shown here once too, and that was one of the couple of episodes I've seen, and people don't need to watch it. It's just not good.
Yeah. I would say Fringe, but Fringe is kind of inspired by the X-Files anyway, so...
Yeah.
You know, Fringe, I'd say, was right up there, especially with the whole pseudoscience thing.
Mm-hmm. A lot of Assassin's Creed there.
Yeah, a lot of Assassin's Creed, a lot of future science kind of stuff. I got a good one. Band of Brothers, because that was inspired by World War, which has inspired hundreds of games.
Yeah, especially the style of Band of Brothers, that like the highly contrasted sort of cinematography there. You know, you've seen that a lot in, especially some of the Call of Duty stuff.
Yeah, and not to mention there was a game series called Brothers in Arms, which was basically the same thing.
It's true. I mean, might as well copy something good.
Yeah, that's true.
I wonder how much influence procedural mystery shows have had on episodic games in general. Like that sort of build up of here's a mystery, we've resolved it, but here's a bigger one for the next episode, and like that ebb and flow over each episode.
That's actually a really good call.
Something like NCIS, has been around for 20 years. How much has that influenced stuff?
Yeah. There's one that occurred to me then. I kind of really feel bad saying this. It's not necessarily a TV show, but look at the scope of racing games now, and you can take that all the way back to Fast and the Furious.
Sure, yeah.
They have essentially evolved with the movies. Like, the second Fast and the Furious came out and made itself a boatload of money, all of a sudden, every single Need for Speed game was all about the underglow,
brotherhood,
and the street racing,
family.
Salut ma familia.
Yeah, exactly.
But that evolution for the movies, you've seen it reflected in the games. Now it's like chase this jet down this mountain path in Forza Horizon 3, and it's like, yeah, that's Fast and the Furious. And then the trailer for Payback was 100% a Fast and the Furious movie trailer.
Oh, yeah. I mean, even the stuff they showed at E3 was very much like, oh, it's Fast and the Furious. Like, had they not screwed it up, that could have been a really fun title that was just like a popcorn game.
Yeah.
I mean, had to loot box it up. I'm trying to think of any big shows like have any games... Have games overall been influenced by something like Seinfeld?
I don't think so, because I think comedy is the game that's the hardest to make, so not many people do it.
Yeah, but I wonder if games have been influenced by Seinfeld's willingness to sort of... everyone always says that Seinfeld is a show about nothing, but it's actually a show about like breaking down societal norms, or like when people break societal norms. I wonder if any game has ever really dealt with that too much, but I don't think so. I'm trying to think of big shows like that.
My problem is I have very limited experience with what are probably traditionally the American big shows.
Right.
You want to talk about Downton Abbey? You want to talk about some Doctor Who?
Have any games been influenced by Faulty Towers? Like, who knows? Probably some ZX Spectrum stuff.
Yeah, and on top of that, the things like Faulty Towers, One Foot in the Grave, like these Blackadder, like these are all about poking fun at like both the characters but also the situations, and you get a lot of that in video games in general. Not very many specifically comedy games, but like you get the
like poking at tropes, almost like Red Dwarf, where it's sort of like it's a space show that's making fun of space shows.
Can we just talk about Red Dwarf for the rest of this episode, please?
Yep,
because
100%.
That is like 100% my favorite like 80s TV show ever.
Yep. Red Dwarf, I bet, still holds up if anyone hasn't watched it.
It doesn't. I watched it like a couple of years ago. I sat down and watched the whole run. It's really, really good, but really, like you said, it does that great thing of poking holes at the spaceship tropes.
Sort of like what the Orville is doing now, where it's like it's a really good space show, and it's also making fun of really good space shows.
Yeah, well, I think the problem is a lot of these things, like a lot of the biggest TV shows of all time are stuff like comedies.
Yeah, or sitcoms.
Yeah, and it's really, really hard to translate that into a video game. I mean, Game of Thrones is essentially like Final Fantasy.
Yep.
Which video games have been doing that kind of over-the-top dramatic storyline for years. I mean, look at
whoever made the first D&D video game, basically.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Look at Final Fantasy VII. It is a world in which technology is taking over and nobody believes in magic anymore. And oh no, magic is here.
Yeah.
That's Game of Thrones.
Yeah.
So, in a way, maybe Mr. Martin was inspired by Final Fantasy. No, he wasn't. He started writing them like 50 years ago.
Yeah. And 4 books later.
It's 6.
That's 6, okay.
Where's number
Let's
7?
not exaggerate.
No.
Yeah.
I want my book.
Second to last question here from Servo in Discord. This comes off the heels of teams like Waypoint unsure about the amount of coverage to give Kingdom Come Deliverance due to their history with being pro-Gamergate. Has there been a situation where you didn't support or purchase a game due to the views of the development team / publisher?
I can answer this one, and if you hear about 2 seconds of silence after I stop talking, that means Boston's cut it out of the show, just for the record. We deliberately did not talk about one game in specifics over E3. We did a whole bunch of E3 coverage, and we left out a game for that exact same reason.
Yeah, one of the directors, I think, was very pro-Gamergate.
Mm-hmm. And we didn't even mention it in the show.
That game looked super cool, and I think so. Here's the thing. Number one, Gamergate is bad. If you support or believe or any of that, you're a bad person. That's a bad movement. Stop harassing women. Just stop being a D in general.
Mm-hmm.
Number two, there was a team recently, separate from Kingdom Come Deliverance, that found out that one of their team members had been saying some of this sort of stuff on Twitter, and they fired him. That's a great move to take. I will continue to be interested in and support your game. If you're going to be like Kingdom Come Deliverance or whatever this other game is that I have wiped from my memory, and you're going to have these people in a higher level, I think the Kingdom Come guy was like a game director or a game producer or something like that, a higher up position, and you're going to continue to have them on your team. Part of this thing that I struggle with is,
do you punish the team for the individual?
Well, yes, because they're complicit to a harasser and abuser. But one of the things I don't like doing on the show is I don't like just mudslinging. I don't.
Yeah.
I really hesitate in the news stories to bring up a news story that's just like, oh, screw these guys, they did something bad. I'd rather talk about, like we did with the System Shock remake, where there's an interesting story behind bad news.
Yeah.
That to me is much more interesting, instead of, you can read like any blog, any news site, and it's just this laundry list of like failed Kickstarters and people that are doing bad things on YouTube and this stuff. I'd rather the show be a little bit more of an escape than that.
Yeah, it's also like you look at games like Destiny 2 and you look at games like No Man's Sky.
Yep.
You don't see us flinging stuff towards them, calling them names and calling them terrible things. We point out what we view are the mistakes. You can agree with us and disagree with us. That's absolutely fine.
Yep.
But at no point would anybody here, and hopefully anybody in the community, ever consider sending a death threat to somebody because they developed a game.
Right.
That's the kind of stuff that you've got to disconnect from. It's, okay, the Destiny, the guys are making the same mistakes they did last time.
Right.
They can either learn from that or not.
Right.
They probably haven't. That's fine. I will no longer be playing that game. I'm not going to call them names. The No Man's Sky situation, they were not clear or communicative about the game itself. That's fine. That's their choice. Don't start flinging stuff, insults, threats, anything like that in that direction, because it's not worth your time. It's not worth your hatred. John Cena hasn't changed his professional wrestling character in 20 years. Guess what? It doesn't make any sense to hate him for it. He makes probably more than everybody who listens to this podcast does combined.
Well, and also the thing,
energy.
Also the thing to remember is that there are actual people behind these games that are being made and that you're threatening or harassing or sending death threats. So, to me, somebody like this game, when I find out that, someone pro Gamergate or that either an individual or the studio, to me it's a different level than loot boxes. I don't want to play a game that heavily relies on real money loot boxes to something like Battlefront 2, where it's an integral part of the experience. So I'd rather look at that and say, no, I'm good. If you enjoy it, that's fine. A team or a studio or a game or a person that supports Gamergate, to me, that's an entirely different thing where I'm not even going to engage in it. That Gamergate is a bad movement that just wants to harass women and people of color, and that's not okay. To put it the most mildly I can, it is definitely not okay.
Well, it's like my wife and I recently watched Baby Driver, and it's stuff like that. It's really awkward because it's like 99.9% of that movie is incredible, and then there's Kevin Spacey.
Right, and it's sort of like, oh man.
It's like, how do I feel about this movie as a whole? Right. And can I disassociate from that specific person?
Yeah, it's like the old, can you separate the artist from the art? When people say, oh, I like this guy's music, but, in these interviews, he's always such a jerk. And it's like, well, how can I deal with that?
The guy behind the world that Shadow Complex is based on, he's a prime example of it. Like, he co-wrote Shadow Complex as well. And a notorious D-bag. Yep.
Super homophobe, which is like, not gonna work.
So it's up to every individual is the problem.
Yeah. But I think when you look at this show and everything else on the E1M1 network, I think coverage of these games is going to be non-existent because part of Gamergate, excuse me, is they like the spotlight being shown on them because they can try to get their message out more. And I would rather not talk about a game that has been influenced by that. Also, it seems just like a bad game. Soulman in Discord has said that it's just a broken, bad game. So that's sort of two very good reasons not to cover it at all.
Yeah. My big issue is that quite often I don't know these things for me personally. Yeah. It's like, I will buy a game or not buy a game just based on how it looks, how the trailer looks. I'm not going to research every single thing I buy.
Yeah.
If it turns out that someone is associated with it that I don't share the same opinions with, it's up to me. Do I keep playing or do I not?
Yeah.
It's a difficult minefield that you have to walk through these days. And I'm not saying that it's a bad thing. In fact, it's a very, very good thing. These things need to be in the air to be seen. And in my case, it's just a case of I don't actually bother researching who made a game or who's behind a game.
Right.
Before I actually purchase it.
Well, and usually it's not a big deal. Usually it's just here's a team of people that made a game. Oh, yay.
Yeah.
Yeah. And our last question here from Maximus Prime on Discord. Everyone that's into video games can name at least one ending that's stuck with them because it's so great for whatever reason. But what about one that's so horrible you'll never forget it? Also, why was it so horrible to you?
Mass Effect 3. I'm just kidding.
Yeah. Let's not open that can of worms.
That's not.
I actually have a weird one. The one that came to mind is Red Dead Redemption. I think the ending is really great. The farmhouse and the whole thing. But the other ending...
Oh, wait, no. Prologue. The epilogue.
Yeah, the actual epilogue is sort of like, well... Now I feel like that whole thing got kind of wasted.
Yeah.
Because the cycle of revenge continues.
It's just going to keep on going.
Yeah.
Infernal Hell's Vengeance. Xbox 360 game. The final boss ran at 2 frames a second. I've spoken about it on this show before.
Yeah.
Made the last boss almost unplayable, and by the time I'd finished it, I didn't care anymore about that game because it was so technically broken.
I'm trying to think of endings that were really bad. Oh, man. I don't know. I feel like so many video game endings are fine. You know, very few of them are incredible, and very, very few of them are just like dumpster fire bad. I feel like a lot of people might feel that way about the first BioShock, separating the boss fight, but most people, like, the ending is like, here's an 8-second cutscene, credits. It's like, well, that wasn't satisfying.
I wasn't a big fan of that, but I was a big fan of the whole process right up to that point. I even didn't care about the boss fight. I thought it was actually okay. I'm one of the few in that.
It's not. I think the Mechanical Beacon in chat just wrote the ending of BioShock sucked. The delay is killing us. I think the bad part about BioShock is it crescendos at about the 75% mark.
And keeps on going.
And then the game doesn't have an hour left. It has a lot left.
I mean, I'm trying to think, like, a lot of the old school games where you beat the game and it just kicks you to the title screen. It's like, game over, congratulations.
Right.
Back to the title screen you go. Like, that kind of stuff always irritated me. Just give me a thank you for playing, at least. Something Sega was always good at. Sega was always the politest when I was growing up at saying thank you for playing.
Yeah. I actually pulled up a list here of the 50 worst video game endings ever. Number 49 is Kane and Lynch 2 Dog Days.
Never played it.
It's a good 4-hour ride. It was also $60. The bad part about Kane and Lynch 2, I reviewed that game. I actually liked it, price aside. Literally, the final level, you're like fighting your way into the plane, and you're gonna get off, and you're gonna go to somewhere else, and you get on the plane, and you get off into the credits.
Oh,
it's very much like, we're gonna go to the next level, credits. The what now?
Oh, so it's an ending that shouldn't be an ending.
Yeah.
It's the inverse Lord of the Rings effect. It's ended.
Final Fantasy 13 had a pretty bad ending, but that wasn't too surprising.
It technically doesn't really count, but the last disc of Final Fantasy 8 is not a great one. The rest of that game is incredible, but the last disc
is a favorite of mine. Like that castle you're in, where you're getting your skills back, I really like, but I know it's very controversial.
Yes,
they put mostly here on number 34 the first Gears of War. I don't know if I'd agree with that. That fight at the end was pretty cool. I can't even remember how
that thing ends. Well, with Rom on the train, isn't it?
Yeah. Fight General Rom. That wasn't super bad.
That wasn't bad.
No. They put Crackdown here. Crackdown was a great ending.
I'm sorry. The ending to Crackdown is incredible.
Hey, I'm the bad guy. Whoops.
Hey, the ending to Crackdown 2 is equally just as incredible.
Yeah. Batman Arkham Asylum is on here. No. A Mechanical Beacon chat says, I felt the ending of Skyrim was kind of a letdown. That's kind of the bad thing about those games. Is like, everything you've done up until that point is way more interesting than the main storyline. Mm-hmm. So the ending was sort of like, hey, this dragon gave you something. You're done. It's like, oh...
You want to talk about really, really bad endings? Let's talk about Fallout 3 and how it shut the game down and did not kick you back into the open world.
The original ending before it got DLC'd.
Before the DLC.
Yes. That is number 18 on their list, yeah. Yeah. Bionic Commando, that's hilarious. And Metal Gear Solid 2 Sons of Liberty on here.
The ending to that is crazy. It's
crazy
great.
And incredible. It's a prophecy about what the internet looks like in 2017.
And it's kind of accurate.
It came true.
Yeah. Legitimately, Kojima is Nostradamus. Let's face it.
Somehow, he's a time traveler.
The ending of 2, the ending of Revengeance, like, he's ridiculous.
They also put Alan Wake on this list, which I will vehemently disagree with. As we talked about yesterday during Game Club. Alan Wake is a good game. It has a really cool ending.
Yes, it is. Alan Wake is an incredible game.
They put the first Assassin's Creed on here. No.
Go away. If you put 2 or Brotherhood on there as well, go away as well.
The turning point of the franchise for Assassin's Creed is when you get out of the Animus and you push that button and you can see all the writing on the walls with
that is incredible.
The vision. Come on, man, that's so cool.
Like when the bleeding effect takes over Desmond and he gets eagle vision in real life. Yeah. Oh, hell yes. That is incredible.
This list is wrong. Complex.com. Your list is wrong. Well, that's enough.
It's not wrong. It's just complex.
Hey. Well, on that note, that's our episode. Thank you very much, everyone, for
really. We're killing it on that. Great.
Yeah, we go out, go out on a showstopper. Leave them laughing. If you'd like to visit us, you can do so at tvgp.tv. Links to everything, including the Discord server, the very active Discord server on the right-hand side of the page. The newest Game Club game we just wrapped up, Mummy Demastered, out now, should be the Game Club recap episode. The next one is West of Loathing, about 7-8 hours on PC, OS X, and Linux. If you'd like to watch us live, watch us on YouTube and Twitch, also Mixer and Hitbox, or whatever that thing's called now. Subscribe to us on all those places. A reminder, if there's anywhere we're not that you'd like to see us, drop me a line. I'll see if I can get us on there. And last but not least, Patreon. Patreon.com/E1M1. Get a bunch of cool behind-the-scenes stuff. Speaking of behind-the-scenes stuff, we're working on a whole bunch of behind-the-scenes stuff that will be announced in the next coming weeks and months. And some of that stuff is going to be early access on Patreon, and it's going to be really cool stuff. So any support you can toss at the show it doesn't help line our pockets. It just helps me pay for hosting, which if you've ever been curious how much stuff costs, I have the exact numbers on the website. So patreon.com/E1M1. Thank you very much for your support, and thank you for listening. We'll see you all next week.
I
have a bunch of titles. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
It's a shame I really can't read my own right.
As is custom, we'll start with you.
Okay. There's really no winning. Chocobo Horse Camel is a problem. Bayek of that guy. Gave him the Stabby Jones. Who did I just kill? Mr. Bean the Assassin. Assassin's Creed British guy. And when's the Nordic coming off?
Mr. Bean the Assassin is good. I have You've Got Moxie. I've never seen a stick figure walk this well. Your actual size, because I like that you were saying like it was something where it was like your chomp size, your movement speed, your actual size.
Yes.
Every shark's dream. You shoot people who've been naughty.
Oh god, that's really dangerous. I forgot about that one.
Jazz Fingers, The Doorway. Chocobo Horse Camel, and Mr. Bean the Assassin. I kind of like You Shoot People Who've Been Naughty.
Yeah, that's kind of cute in a really stupid way. I'm torn between the Bayek of that guy and Mr. Bean the Assassin.
Yeah. I feel like Bayek of that guy doesn't play that well. Mr. Bean the Assassin is pretty good.
Okay, so we'll decision time. Mr. Bean or You Shoot Naughty People.
So I actually want to pick Mr. Bean the Assassin because I feel like You Shoot People Who've Been Naughty is very similar to like 2 or 3 other titles we've had over the years, which is going to sort of be tough because I've been doing 539 of these dumb things, but I don't think we've ever had a title that's come close to anything sounding like Mr. Bean the Assassin.
So, okay.
It's so dumb. I love it. Alright, starting in 3, 2, 1. This is That Video Game Podcast, episode 539 for February 19th, 2018. Mr. Bean, the Assassin.
How serendipitous.
Alright, thank you so much, everyone, for watching live. Really appreciate it. Thank you, everyone, for chatting with us. No thank you to the spammers. Just don't come back.
Yay, spam!
And we'll see you guys next week. Bye. If you're a $5 or more patron, I'll see you tonight. Bye.
You got really creepily close then.
Bye. Adios. And we can stop recording.